I'm really happy to welcome you all to this first Gender and Diversity Conference in the Human Brain Project. It's a true pleasure for me to welcome you to this conference after 18 months of preparation works with different activities within the gender task for the Human Brain Project. My name is Katharina Schiederik, and I was involved as a project leader in the gender task from the side of EAF Berlin. I'm standing here today with warm regards from Helga Lukoschat, who is the chairperson of EAF Berlin, and who has unfortunately a serious infection and cannot be here. So don't be surprised if you see me at different time slots in the program where her name was foreseen. She sends her warm regards to all of you. It's an honor for me to be here standing and speaking on her behalf. And it's an honor for all of us to be hosted at Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. So let me take the opportunity to thank the wonderful organizing team for this conference. First of all, Pilar Flores Romero and her team from UPM, Elisabeth Wintersteller and Teresa Ras from the Education Programme, Ainhoa Echeverria Alvarez from Project Coordination Office, and Hannah Voelkle and Vanessa Schmidt from EAF Berlin. So thank you very much for making this conference possible, and thank you for hosting this conference to Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. Our appreciation goes to Don Guillermo Cisneros Pérez, the Rector Magnífi de la Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, for inviting us to have this conference here.
Thank you very much. Really, it's a pleasure to host the meeting here. It's a pleasure to host a very important issue as is the gender issue tackled under the HBP project. And what we must thank is to the organization that you have chosen Madrid and Universidad Politécnica de Madrid to handle this event, to hold this event here. So welcome to Madrid, welcome to Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your kind welcome. I now have the pleasure to announce 3 welcoming speeches that we have here. And I introduce to you Don Guillermo Cisneros Pérez, that you've already heard now, but also Professor Katrin Amunds from Forschungszentrum Jülich, who's the chair of the Science and Infrastructure Board in HBP. And on the other side of the table, Valentina Parata, who's the scientific project officer in charge of the HBP at the European Commission. The 3 of them are now so kind to direct their greetings to you. First of all, I would like to give the word to Katrin Amunds.
Thank you very much for introducing Magnificence. It's our great pleasure that Madrid is hosting this first gender conference of the Human Brain Project. And I should say this is also my first gender conference. And I'm really happy that, that after several years of activities of intensive work in the Human Brain Project, we are also now at a point where we bring together young female scientists in particular with other colleagues from the HBP on this particular topic. And as you know, as you are aware, of course, as members of the HBP, our aim is to contribute to the understanding of the human brain, which is really one of the challenges of the 21st century. And it is important because we can gain insight of what makes us human. It is important because it's contributing to basic science and also to medicine. And we are convinced that we are now at a place where these things really can happen because of the development of research and ACT at the same time. And in the next phase, which starts in a few weeks, on the 1st of April, we would like to develop a European infrastructure for brain research that aims at bridging the scales of the brain's multi-scale organization. And this is not just a technical description of work, it is really what we would like to do. And we think that this understanding of the multi-level organization of the brain the way how we think about transitions between one level of organization to the other. So what does it mean if certain molecules bind to a receptor? What does it mean then for cellular function and for the function of the whole brain? So this is really the key when we would like to understand brain complexity. But there's an interesting point in it, and that is we would like to understand the human brain. What is a human brain? Is this a female human brain? Is this a male human brain? Or doesn't it matter at all because it's so similar that we are good enough if we understand the brain? And I mean, this question was addressed from the very beginning. It has to do something with intersubject variability. And the attempt to connect data from neuroscience to abilities, to behavior, to cognition goes back to the 19th century. And to address such relationship, some researchers decided to analyze so-called elite brains. And in Germany, Göttingen, for instance, there was a famous collection of elite brains, and there were other collections, and people were very proud to donate their brain because they were hoping that they had a particularly large brain. If you see some of the brain weights here, then you will immediately see that Gauss, for instance, had quite a big brain, at least it was higher than average. But you see also the two sides of the spectrum. This is Turgenev, a Russian poet who had, or it was reported that he had a brain of 2 kilograms. And at the other hand, it was Anatole France, who nevertheless got the Nobel Prize. So this was obviously also enough enough brain, so to say. And this questions, of course, also the importance of this parameter. So the variation is, of course, huge if you compare 1 kilogram with 2. And we know, of course, if it's much below 1 kilogram, then the abilities are decreasing. But I mean, in this range, everything is okay. What is missing here, when you look to all these famous professors who were mathematicians like Fuchs, like Dirichlet, Hermann, Einstein, a physicist, Hausmann, a mathematician, Gall, a researcher, brain researcher, we could say there's no woman. And at least I'm aware only of a brain of this woman who has been analyzed, and where it was appreciated that she was famous and good enough to be so included in the series after her death. And the researcher that analyzed her brain was Retzius, who is really quite famous also in neuroscience. But he said her brain is nicht besonders kompliziert, not very complex. So this was a very short analysis, of course, and again, one can question whether such analysis should be considered, but this was a serious researcher at the same time, and he contributed to many aspects of brain organization. And we see here, in the same way as we have saw it in my first slide, that there's of course a close relationship between what we are doing as neuroscientists on the one hand and what are the cultural, political, sociological backgrounds. So these things are not going independently from each other. And to finish these things, I mean, I started my research with Paul Broca and the Broca Center for Language Research. And I found a citation from Topinard, who was a student and successor of Paul Broca, who said and explained the differences in brain weight between female and male brains, which are about 150 grams. He said the man who has to fight for 2 or more in the struggle for existence, who bears all the responsibility and cares for the next day, who is constantly fighting with the environment and human rivals, needs more brains than the woman he has to protect and nurture than the sedentary one who lacks all inner workings and whose role is to raise, to love, and to be passive. Okay, this is not precisely what we would like to do. But again, I mean, these were very important researchers, and I found also that Topinard was more flexible, so to say, as compared to Broca. And these people, of course, have shaped very much our understanding about the brain and also our understanding of the relationship of brain function, behavior, and structure on the other hand. So, I mean, this was a very interesting beginning in my view. When we come to the last century, I would like to show you an image that my mentor published in the early 70s, and he analyzed age-related changes also in brain weight. And you see here the age, and here you see the brain weight. And males, this is the circles, and females, these are little squares. And when you have a look to this graph, then you can see, I mean, everything is quite close together. And at the same time, there's a huge variability in both directions. So there's a huge overlap, there's a huge variability. And this is also the case when we have a look to a little bit a later study, again, age-related changes in brain weight. And if you see the variation in brain weight between men and women, there are, of course, huge overlaps. So this brings a question, and it was really addressed, do we need this type of research? And the Süddeutsche, a German newspaper, said, das Gehirn hat kein Geschlecht, so the brain does not have gender. Is this really true? I mean, is everything only variability, and is this okay enough for us to address the human brain? And I mean, considering that male and female brains are not necessarily different. So in my view, also as a researcher, it is important to address human brain research, and at least there are 3 motivations for me that speak in favor of also addressing sex differences explicitly in our studies of the human brain. The first is that sex modulates neurobiological processes on many, many levels. Yeah? This is not true only for hormones and their receptors. This is true for all aspects of brain anatomy, brain physiology, and brain function. So sex is a very strong modulator of a lot of neurobiological processes. And we know that sex and gender bias neurological and psychiatric diseases. And again, there is a very broad range of diseases that, for instance, start later in women than in men, like schizophrenia. Or there are differences in epilepsy. So certain types of epilepsy can be more frequently found in females than in males. Depression is different in terms of the cause, drug abuse, and also autism. And it has also a practical consequence, because when pharma industry is developing drugs, they are testing drugs very often not on the broad spectrum, so to say, of human beings, but very like to focus on typical male subjects and female subjects, and there are also their changes that they undergo during lifespan. They are neglected, but we want to have drugs, of course, that are positively acting for both females and males. And this is the third point. It has consequences for pharmacotherapy. So I think it is very important in the HBP that that sex and gender, dependent on the question, is not only addressed as a factor, but that it is really set up as a research aim for your research, and that you keep it in mind. So what else, and why is the HBP else? I think the EAF did a very important and nice work during the last months, and they came out with an online survey on gender equality within the HBP. And one of the most interesting findings from my point of view was the answer to the question, do you think women and men are equally represented in decision-making positions in the HBP? And there is a significant overestimation of the present as compared to the facts. And you are probably aware that Katinka and me are the two representatives in the as the sub-project leaders in the SIB. And this is only 2 out of 12, we should say. And it's not so much better on the work package and task level. So we really see this imbalance on these higher leadership positions. While when we have a look to PIs and doctoral students, this is not the case at all. And we should take this gap seriously and address it and ask the question, what can we do? And why are we so ignorant at a certain point that we miss so many competencies? And at the end, it's also a question of democracy and fairness. That we have equal opportunities, and we will have excellent speakers today. We will have and learn more about it. So I would like to stop at this moment. I hope that with this workshop we will raise an awareness to this topic, that this is not an old-fashioned topic from the 60s or 70s or 80s, but it's an actual one. I can promise that we as a SIB will do what we can to realize the Gender Action Plan and think precisely what can be done in our HBP. One concrete point is that we have special attention to balanced speaker proposals at the next summit, so please also come up with proposals from your side. We want to support female careers, and we already took first measures to bring in new task leaders, female task leaders, and had these discussions in some of the SPs to correct this mismatch. And at the end, it depends also very much on you, how you shape your future and career, and how your life is going on. So very warm welcome. Thank you for being part of the HBP and of this particular day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katrin Amunds. Next, I would like to give the word to Valentina Parata, please.
Good morning to all of you. I'm Valentina Parata, the scientific project leader of the European Commission dealing with the HBP. I'm the unique female in a group of 3 project officers, but in reality I'm part of a unit in which the gender balance is a really high-level priority because it's quite perfect in my unit. So I'm really proud of the Commission work around it. As many of you already know, I'm a cognitive neuroscientist by training. And I've joined the Commission 3.5 years ago, coming from Italy, for giving my expertise around these themes and to complement the work of my colleagues that are doing and following the administrative and financial aspect of the projects. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you to the Magnífi Rector for hosting this event, for Katrin to be always brilliant in directing HBP, and to all of you. For giving me this occasion for shorten a little bit the distance between me as an art scientist coming from Italy, where in reality the gender balance is not really a priority, and to know better this topic that even for my future can be really important to know better and to maybe also to study better. For shorten also the distance, as Ineke said, between the different DGs of the Commission, where we are still working sometimes in silos around these topics, because we in DG Connect we are not really specialists in gender. So, looking at the agenda of today, I've seen names of really high-level persons, so I don't want to waste your time only with my few words. And I'm sure that I will not be precise in the wording around gender issues, because I'm not a specialist, as I said. But it's a pleasure, really a pleasure for me to be here, not because, as I said, I'm the unique woman of the team, but because the Commission is giving extreme importance to the gender equality, and being also here is a way for showing you our strong support. As you might know, the Commission is not only supporting the inclusion of the gender dimension in research content, but is also encouraging the efforts that you are demonstrating here today, and also yesterday with your workshop on the career, in promoting gender equality in career and gender balance in the decision-making body. This workshop is not only the occasion for exchanging ideas around gender dimension in research, but I see it as in particular in neuroscience and in HBP, also as an investment in this big project for having in the future leadership of HBP an increasing number of brilliant females, as Catherine already said before. Now I see today and in the PIs working in the project, a lot of enthusiastic females working on it. But in reality, only a small number of them having responsibility as a sub-project leader or co-leader. I see Katinka here, Catherine, and Jeanette as a co-leader of SP6. But I know that you are struggling a little bit because this community is very interdisciplinary, is coming from different fields, including both research and technology, and counts a limited number of females at the top levels. And I've seen already a lot of changes going on in the last year, coming from also the good ideas of Catherine and of your ideas in general. I'm encouraging you to do more. Gender equality and gender balance need to be a key priority of HBP. And you can change a culture here because you are a big project. You are a big project and the whole scientific community can learn from you because you have great visibility as a flagship. You can become a success story also around gender dimension and gender content in research. And you can start by now coming from this workshop for resulting with action from this concrete workshop. I don't want to keep the speech too long. I give the floor to our Londa, that is an expert in this field. So I hope that this day will be really rich of new ideas for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valentina, for your welcome. Next, I would like to invite the magnificent Rector to say his words.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome to Madrid, as I said at the beginning. And again, thanks for having chosen Madrid in Spain, and particularly UPM, Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, to have this conference on gender issues under the HBP project. It's a very huge project in the European Union, really, under the European Commission programs. It's clear that under the European projects, the gender issues had a very high importance very many years ago. And the case is important that you have tackled this issue under the HBP project, as it's a very huge project among the projects of the EU programs. Personally, I still remember some discussions at the European Commission offices concerning evaluation of proposals, project proposals about the gender issues, and I was seeing the change in the consideration of these cases when at the beginning that was less than half a page. And then this was growing importance to consider a number of things that were further than the proposal itself, but as well the execution and the impact and the considerations. Well, I think this is good, and of course under the an important item as well is the difference, as you have stated, between gender and sex. They are very different things that cannot be confused. Concerning UPM, particularly, as we believe that we have launched or were involved in different initiatives. For instance, we have presented an initiative on industrial doctorates for women, that, by the way, is led by our Vice Rector for Research, Innovation, and Doctorate Estates, who is Professor Gomez, is a woman. And as well, we are involved in, we're supporting initiatives from the Royal Academy of Engineers in Spain. It's the program Women in Engineering. In UPM as well, we have a specific mentoring programs for women. And we are as well pushing a movement like Inspiring Girls. This means vocation increment for women in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and maths. This is just a sample, because we are also pushing other issues and supporting initiatives that well, many people is coming. We offer them this room, the UPM, as a support to go further with the initiatives. So we are absolutely convinced that by our everyday experience, of course, that mixed teams work faster and go farther. You have put something, some joke in a slide that speak about something that must be in the past, in the very, very past. And what is true nowadays is that these things must happen in a very natural way, incorporate into our culture this case of gender as a very natural thing. And we cannot forget our 50% of the effort to tackle project proposals, to tackle research, to tackle STEAM, and to tackle every case in our natural lives. Because that 50% is very important. I don't want to go further in my speech, because the important things in this room are still to happen today. And I would like to finalize these words just with a contradiction that is itself in this moment. I want to wish success in all these initiatives, and in particular when tackling the gender issues under the HBP project and under any project in the European Commission. But always knowing that success means that this could become meaningless, because if you have success, natural things will happen in natural way. So mixed teams will be a reality with no need of this kind of moments, you know. So anyway, I wish success for the future, sure that in spite of natural things will happen in a natural way, there will be very many other issues to tackle in the future, taking into account the next step, which is the equilibrium, which is the quality, and which is the natural mixture of 50% strength working in all kinds of projects. There will be other tasks to be tackled in the future. So, wishing success, I'm sure that these initiatives will not become meaningless in the future. So, success Have a nice day. Enjoy your stay in Madrid. And thanks again for choosing UPM here for this event in these days. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for your kind welcome, and thank you for hosting this event at UPM. Thank you to all three of you for your kind welcoming words.